Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Joey Francis, your life, love, and relationship coach. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me ask you something. When you're on a first date, who are you? Are you the version of yourself that's honest or the version of yourself that's agreeable? Because here's what I see over and over again. The more we like someone, the less honest we become. And maybe not honest, maybe honest is a bad word to use, but the less ourselves we become. If they're attractive, emotionally intelligent, or charming, we start editing, we start bending, we start performing. But if they weren't as attractive, if they didn't hit our emotional buttons, if they weren't exactly what we thought we wanted, we'd definitely be more critical. We'd be more honest. We'd be more ourselves. So why do we do it? It's not just fear. It's fantasy. It's desire. The hope that this time it may work. So we shapeshift. We mirror. We try to be easy to love. And for a little while, it may work. They like us. We like them. Everything feels aligned. But then a few weeks go by, maybe even months. We get comfortable. The real us starts to shine through. Or the real them starts to shine through if you're the person on the other end of it. We're not as chill as we pretended to be. We don't actually like the things we said we did. We start asking for things we said we didn't need. And now they're the ones that are confused. Or again, if we reverse it, you're confused about the person because we're not who we thought they were. And that confusion, it turns into distance. It turns into disconnection. And before you know it, you're now breaking up, hurt, frustrated, and not always understanding why. So today, this week, we'd like to talk about the cost of trying to be easy to love. Why do we do it? How it backfires? And what it looks like to show up not as a performance, but as a person, as ourselves. So let's break this down. What does it actually look like when we start trying to be easy to love? It's not always dramatic. It's subtle. It's strategic. It's the moment you pause before answering a question, not to think, but to filter. When it's like when you say, I'm good with whatever, even though you might not be. Or when you say like, oh, like I'm actually like a really laid back and chill person, even though you're deeply emotional. It's when you say, you know what, I'm also not looking for anything serious, because you don't want to scare them off. And you're not necessarily lying, although the last one is kind of like a lie, but you're adjusting. You're adjusting what you're saying. You're trying to fit them. You're trying to stay in the game. And it's not just fear, it's ego, it's desire. It's the fantasy of finally being chosen and not wanting to mess things up. So you start making micro compromises. You say yes when what you really mean is maybe. You say maybe when what you really mean is no. And then you say nothing when you should probably speak up. And the worst part, you don't even realize you're doing it until it's too late. Until the real you starts to show. And then they look at you like, where did this come from? Like, who are you? And now you're the problem. Now you're the one that's changing. You're the one that's needy. And now you're not who I thought you were. But you were never who they thought you were. You just didn't give them the chance to meet you. That is self-abandonment. It's a spiral. And here's what happens when you start performing and dating, not just once, but consistently. because you don't just bend once, you start bending everywhere. You start filtering your responses. You start anticipating their reactions. You start managing their perception of you instead of you showing up as yourself. It's not just about being agreeable. It's about being strategic. You're trying to control the outcome. You're trying to manipulate someone. And we have mentioned this before and talked about this. It's kind of like where this episode sort of spawned from. You're trying to secure connection before it's even real. And that's like where the spiral begins. It's like a web of lies. You tell one, and then you need to tell another to corroborate the first one, and then you need to tell another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And then next thing you know, you're just sitting in the middle of a web saying, how did I get here? Because now every interaction becomes a calculation. You're not asking, do I like them? You just continuously ask yourself, do they like me? You're not checking in with yourself. You're checking in with their tone, their energy, their level of interest. And the thing is, then the anxiety kicks in. They don't necessarily respond right away, and you start overthinking. You start jumping to conclusions. You start rewriting the entire relationship in your head. They send you a one-word reply. You spiral. You wonder if you are the one that said something wrong, or if they're losing interest, or if you're about to be ghosted. And slowly but surely, you stop trusting yourself. You second-guess your instincts. You mute your preferences, and you start thinking, maybe I'm too much. Maybe like I need to like pull back. Maybe I need to just like let them be. Maybe I should just go with it. And the more you do that, the more disconnected you become, not just from them, but from yourself. You're not dating anymore. You're managing, you're performing, you're trying to survive, you're trying to keep this relationship alive. And by the time the real you starts to surface, because it always will, you're exhausted, you're frustrated, and essentially you're emotionally malnourished. And see, that's the thing. When this part happens, when you become exhausted and frustrated and emotionally malnourished, it's hard to keep up the charade. It's hard to continuously perform and try to be this imaginary person you created in your head. Because the whole time you've been feeding someone else's needs and starving your own. I'm going to tell you a story about a girlfriend of mine, a client. So she meets a guy at a party, and as she told me, tall, well-spoken, emotionally articulate. It's the kind of guy who says things like, I've realized my past relationships. I'm trying to be more self-aware. I'm trying to put the work in. And again, according to her, he asked her very thoughtful questions. He made eye contact, and he didn't interrupt her. And the thing is because she sort of has a little bit of dating fatigue, so to speak, and it is a real thing, she hadn't felt this way about somebody in a very long time. So she leaned in, not just physically, but emotionally. She started to curate. See, the first date, he says he's not into texting. And I know her very, very well. She has like thumbs of fury. You can almost call her a chronic texter to some degree. Voice notes, memes that she'll send, check-ins. But what does she say to this guy? Yeah, same. I prefer in person. Now, that's obviously not a lie. We all prefer in-person interactions. But to say that she's not into texting, that's her bending. She's essentially trying to make herself easier to love. And for a few weeks, it works. They're seeing each other. He's engaged. She's excited. And she's telling me all these wonderful things about like their dates and, all the communication and stuff. But she's also anxious because, as I mentioned, he's not into texting. So when he doesn't respond right away, she starts to spiral. She starts to reread his last message and she wonders, is like, am I asking for too much? Did I say too much? Did I not say enough? And then she wonders if she should like wait longer before she replies to him, because maybe she's starting to look a little too desperate, too eager. And then funny enough, he responds and he sends her a one-word answer. And again, she panics. She starts Googling signs he's losing interest, messaging me, calling me like, hey, like, this is what's happening. What do you think he's thinking? Like, what do you think he's going on? Like, I need it from a man's point of view. And you know, I can't stand that. There's no such thing as a man's point of view. There's no such thing as a woman's point of view. Each and every one of us is an individual. Full stop. So she's asking me like what he's thinking. I don't know what he's thinking. I'm not him. And slowly and surely, she stops trusting herself. She stops texting first. She stops asking questions and she starts to essentially shrink and mold herself into what she thinks this guy wants. Until one night they're out to dinner and she finally says something real. She says to him that she's feeling anxious about his communication. She tells him that she wants more clarity about the two of them and their relationship. She tells him that she's interested in taking things further, even though in the beginning he was like, you know, I'm not looking for anything serious. Let's just see what happens type of thing, which I can't stand personally, because that's what dating is. Dating is always, let's see what happens, but you have to have an end goal. I mean, go back to my very, very first episode, knowing what you want and what you're ready for, right? And I mean, she said these things to him at my suggestion because communication and acceptance, right? I can't preach it enough. And so this is what he says to her. He starts to pull back. He says to her, "Oh, you've changed. Like, wait a minute. This doesn't feel the same. It's almost like the fun has sort of been sucked out of this." And then he says to her right then and there, "I'm not sure we're compatible." And now she's thinking to herself, but I didn't change. To herself, she's been herself the whole time. And now here we are. Whose fault is it that she's hurt? As sad as it is to say, and there's no nice way to tell someone that their dog died, it's her own fault. And I did mention this to her, and I did have like lengthy conversations about this to her, because as like the relationship was going on, then she was telling me things like going back to the whole texting thing, where she said that I'm getting used to this idea of not always like texting and being in constant communication because he's a busy guy and he's not great at texting and blah 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, but that's not you. And she's like, yeah, but I'm trying something new. And it's like, okay, sure, no problem. Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, he didn't fall for her. He fell for the version of her that she curated to fit his expectations. The version of her that didn't ask for much. The version of her that doesn't exist. And now she's the one that's hurt. And she's literally crying on the phone to me. What did I do wrong? And I told her, simply, you didn't show up as yourself. And it's unfortunate, but he wasn't interested in the real you. Because compatibility built on lies isn't compatibility at all. It always crashes. You will always get tired. The real you will always come through. And this goes for even if you're the person on the other end and you might be, maybe you're unsure about a person. Remember that the real them will always come through. And when it does, It will leave you questioning your worth when really you should be questioning your strategy, especially in the case of this woman. Because she said it straight out to me, like, what did I do wrong? I didn't do anything wrong. I was myself. And it's like, but were you though? Like, there's been multiple times we had conversations and you were telling me how you're trying something new or this whole communication thing and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, none of that was you. None of that was you. And I mean, I applaud somebody, trying something different, because if it's not working for you and you want to try something different, then so be it. But here we are now. You weren't yourself. Why do we do it? Why do we do it? Why do we bend? Why do we mirror? Why do we perform? I want to go deeper into this. It's not just fear of rejection. It's fear of being alone. It's fear of never being chosen. It's the fear that if we show up fully, we'll be too much, too messy, or too real. And that's just the surface. Beneath it, there's identity insecurity. When you're not fully anchored in who you are, dating becomes a mirror and not a map. You start asking, what do I need to be for them to want me? You adjust your tone. You borrow their interests. You suppress your edges, not to deceive, even though you are deceiving them, but to belong. And this is also called manipulation. You are trying to manipulate somebody. Okay? Because a lot of us might do this, adjust ourselves, curate, and think like, oh, but I mean, I'm still me. Like I'm not doing anything bad. But in reality, you're trying to pretend you're somebody else. Now, if somebody came to you and started lying, would it bother you? Because that's what you're doing. Even though you might think that are little white lies, that they're just little things that doesn't make a difference. It does make a difference. Anyways, then there's scarcity conditioning. You've been single for a while, or had a string of almosts, and then you start believing that love is too rare. So when you find someone that feels almost right, you start to compromise. You start to ignore the red flags. You rationalize the misalignment. You perform to preserve the possibility. Dating fatigue. That is exactly what this is. You get to a point where somebody comes along who has a bunch of things that you like, and then you start to ignore and date them anyways. Doesn't matter how many red flags they have. Doesn't matter if they have the things that you don't want in a partner. You tell yourself that it's not that bad, and then you continue doing it anyways. Now, let's move on to romantic idealization. You don't fall for the person. You fall for the projection. You build this future with this person in your head. You skip all the data. And then you chase this fantasy you've created. And then what ends up happening is, because this fantasy seems so real to you, I'm going to marry this person, everything's going to be amazing. You literally try to steer the ship by any means necessary to go in that direction. And that includes, again, altering yourself, trying to fit their ideal, trying to adjust, just so that you continue sailing in smooth waters. And now there's also conflict avoidance. You're not just trying to be liked. You're trying to avoid discomfort, to avoid confrontation. You fear being misunderstood. So when you say yes, when you mean maybe, when you say maybe, when you mean no, you're trading your authenticity for peace. And then you call that compatibility. And for some, it's validation addiction. You're not dating to connect. You're dating to be confirmed. You're dating to be wanted. You want to be needed. You want to be pursued. You need to feel desirable. And even if you're not emotionally available, you still perform, you still flirt, you still curate, you still chase the high of being chosen. You start manipulating people into thinking that you are what they want because it feels good for you. And then when they find out the truth, that crash, it hurts even more. And now there's also unprocessed grief. So when you haven't healed from the last person that you're dating, you rush intimacy, you fake readiness, you perform stability, hoping that this new correct connection will erase the pain from the old one. As in that you cannot handle being alone. That you're trying to do whatever it takes to avoid being self-aware. You're trying to avoid the hurt feelings you have from the previous relationship by just jumping into the next one. The rebound, so to speak. And that's the thing. Every time they text you back, dopamine hits. Every time that they validate you, your cortisol drops. Every time they say you're amazing, your body exhales. But it's not real safety. It's a neurochemical high built on performance. Essentially, you're doing drugs. And the drug is dating. The drug is feeling needed. The drug is someone validating you. And when it fades, what ends up happening? You start to panic. You start to overthink. You start to spiral. You need another hit. You need more. Because your body remembers what it feels like to be abandoned. And now it's trying to prevent that from happening again, even if it means abandoning yourself first. So let me ask you, are you dating to connect? Or are you dating to be rescued? Because the thing is, if you're always performing, if you're always trying to meet someone else's ideal, you'll never feel safe. You'll feel exposed. You'll feel anxious. And you'll feel like you're walking on eggshells even when they're smiling at you. Because the truth is, if somebody only loves the version of you that's easy to digest, they don't love you. They love the absence of discomfort. They love this person that you created, which doesn't really exist. And now you're not here to be digestible. You're here to be known as yourself. And even if it costs the connection, that's not a loss. That's a filter. That's not a bug. That's a feature. It's doing you justice because they aren't the right person for you. I think I even said this last week. It's about you choosing, not you wanting to be chosen. So, again, I will ask, are you dating to connect? Or are you dating to be rescued? Because if you're always performing, again, you'll never feel safe. You'll never feel exposed. You'll feel exposed. You'll feel anxious. You'll feel walking on eggshells. I'm repeating myself. That's great. Notes are a fantastic thing. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I need to do better on my note taking. So what does it actually look like when you stop performing? Sorry. What does it actually look like when you stop performing? It looks like telling the truth. It looks like you being yourself. Even when it's inconvenient, even when it's not charming, even when it risks you being misunderstood. It looks like someone It looks like letting someone see your full emotional range, not just the parts that are fun and easy to love. It looks like saying, I want something real, even if you're afraid that they'll disagree and walk away. It's not about being fearless, because it is scary, putting ourselves out there, being raw, being us, being vulnerable, which is extremely important. It's about being honest. It's about choosing self-respect over strategy, alignment over approval, being known over being liked. Because here's the truth. If you have to perform to keep someone, you'll never, ever, ever feel safe with them. You'll always be managing. You'll always be guessing. You'll always be trying to predict what they want, when they want it, how they want it. And you'll always be wondering if the real you is too much for them, if the real you would make them walk away. And that's not love. That's emotional labor. This is what a connection should actually look like. Clarity over chemistry. Before you get swept up in the spark, ask, do I feel safe, grounded, self-connected around this person? Not just excited, not just attracted, safe. Can I be myself? Because chemistry without clarity is just chaos. And I've mentioned it before. The benefits of meeting somebody online is trying to get that clarity before chemistry even is a factor. Truth over tolerance. Are you saying what's real even if it risks rejection? Are you shrinking yourself just to keep the peace? Don't soften your needs just to stay desirable. If they leave because of your truth, they were never staying for the right reasons. Pace over performance. You don't owe anyone instant intimacy. You don't have to match their rhythm perfectly. You don't have to prove your worth in the first 3 dates or in reality at all. Slow is honest, and fast is often fear. Not always, but often. For both the ladies and the men, keep it in your pants. Okay? Okay. Self-trust over strategy. Stop trying to manage their perception of you. Start listening to your own body. If you feel anxious, name it. If you feel unsure, explore it. If you feel misaligned, walk away. You don't need to be chosen. You need to choose. You need to be true to yourself. And I mean, I've said this, I know I say everything like a million times. I'm losing my train of thought as we speak. Having the tough conversations with somebody should only bring two people together. And if it doesn't bring two people together, well, then guess what? Those two people were not supposed to be together. It's that simple. If you trying to be true to yourself and trying to not be anxious and trying not to be unsure by asking certain questions, that's only going to bring you closer to a person, because you're going to realize, hey, do we both want this thing or not? Or is this just a one-sided thing? Is it something that I can live with or not? And if somebody doesn't want to answer certain questions, maybe those are things that they haven't healed from. Maybe those are triggers for them. And maybe that they need to take time to move on before they think about dating. So now that we've named the performance, now that we've unpacked the psychology, now that we've chosen truth over choreography, let's integrate, because insight without embodiment is just theory. And you're not here, well, I hope you're not here for just theory. You're here to change how you show up. So I want you to take these questions into your journal or into your next date or even into the mirror with yourself. What parts of me tend to disappear when I feel someone might choose me? What do I believe I have to be in order to be loved? What does safety feel like in my body, and when was the last time I ignored it? What would it look like to show up unedited just once? Don't rush these answers. Let them find you. And most importantly, be 1000% honest with yourself when you're asking them. And the next time you're with somebody new, check in with yourself. Check in with your body. Are you breathing or are you bracing? Are your shoulders relaxed or are you in performance mode, like with a performance posture? Are you speaking from your chest or are you speaking from your throat? Let your nervous system tell the truth before your mouth does. The body doesn't lie. It just waits for you to listen. There's a moment I want you to remember. It's not the moment they said to you that you were amazing. It's not the moment that they kissed you back. It's not the moment that they texted first. It's the moment you told the truth and they didn't flinch. They didn't run. They didn't punish your honesty. It's the moment that they leaned in. It's the moment that they started paying attention to you. That's the moment you stop performing. That's the moment you start healing. And that's the moment that you realize that you were never too much. You were just too honest for the wrong audience. So here's what I want you to remember. You don't need to be impressive. You don't need to be strategic. You don't need to be anything other than true and yourself. That's it. No calculated, what's going on here? Anyways, no calculated, sorry, my computer's doing something funny. No calculated, how many more times do I need to say that? No calculated strategies like, I'm going to text you first, you text me first, whatever the case is. You just be yourself and you just do what's right for you, because the right person won't fall in love with your performance. They'll fall in love with your presence. They will be in love with you as you are, as a person. And if somebody leaves because of your truth, that's not rejection. It's not. It's actually the opposite. It's you rejecting them because you're not interested in them. You're being yourself. They don't like who you are. My number one deal breaker. I only like people who like me. I only love people who love me for who I am, not for who they want me to be or who they want me to pretend to be or whatever the case is. You were never too much. So stop rehearsing, start resonating with yourself, and let love meet you where you actually live. Now, if this episode hit you, maybe cracked something open or made you rethink how you're showing up, good. It's all part of the healing process. It's all part about moving on. Now, I want you to go out there and do something with it. Have better relationships. Be more true to yourself and find somebody who wants you for the genuine you. And If by any chance you have anything else to say to me, you know where to find me. That's JoeyFrancess.com, JoeyFrancess.com. Thank you so much for joining me. And you can message me. You can book a session. You can buy my guided journal if you're ready to stop spiraling and start getting clear. And I'm going to leave you with this. If you're going to date like it matters. Date like it's your job. Because love isn't luck. It's built. Till next time.